iHealth channel and iHealth radio, another show, another Friday, a new guest, and this time we have a little bit of a whole different spin of things. I mean, we always spin things around. We've had some tremendous guests, that discuss a lot of different topics, but today we're going to take it a little bit of an angle. So here's what we're going to do. Uh, First, I'm going to ask the question: have you ever thought about valuation or evaluating things and businesses and infrastructures and things like that? Probably didn't. And There is a whole art to it. There's a whole business to that. And Today we're gonna actually talk about that. Our guest specializes in these things, and not only he does specialize in valuation of things and businesses and so on and so forth. Also, we're gonna try to talk a little bit about healthcare and health industry and maybe some health businesses and how we can potentially give them value and how much they'd be worth and things like that. So, without further ado, I want to just introduce our guest for tonight, Bharat Kanodia. Did I say it right?
Wow, you really nailed it.
All
Perfect.
right.
Thanks, Hurricane.
All right, thank you. It will be a fun show. I mean, we try to kind of change a little bit the rhythm. We talked about psychology. Sometimes, talked about fitness, things like that. So today we're gonna go to business, but we're gonna go to business with a spin. And the man that can give us that is Bharat. So Bharat, first things, let's talk about your background in terms of the business, how it all started, what got you into this valuation business.
It was by accident. I was that
Oh
was the
yeah.
job that was the job I got out of college, and I sort of stuck with it, and that's the network I developed. And turns out I was half good at it. So, it's been 20 years I've been doing this.
Wow. Well, so I have a little bit of a real estate background. Well, not a little bit, many years. So we used to teach classes on valuation and things like that, on the real estate aspect. So is that not like appraisal course and things? I mean, courses and things. Is that where you started?
Close. I started appraising tangible assets like property, plant, and equipment. So including real estate. So I would do like factories or like a copper mine or a stadium. Appraising oddball things like that, and then I moved on to doing real estate. I've done a lot of commercial properties, and now I value companies like private equity or venture capital or regular businesses.
All right. Well, we're gonna talk a lot about all that stuff. I know you even evaluated the Golden Bridge.
Not just the Golden Gate Bridge. Near
Golden
you,
Gate, yeah.
I have appraised the Brooklyn Bridge,
Wow.
the Verrazano Bridge, the 42nd Street Station, the Grand Central Station, the Tappan Zee,
Oh
the
my goodness.
Triborough Bridge.
All right, hold on. Take it easy on us, man. That's a lot of historic monuments that we need to talk about. I mean, uh, people will probably like, listen, what the hell's going on here? I mean, are we even? Is that even for sale? you know?
No, it's not for sale. So many people think that, appraisal or valuation is only done for sales or transactions, but these assets, nobody's going to sell them. So I had appraised these assets for insurance. So, MTA or City of New York or, even your New York State Thruway. I have appraised all these assets either for accounting or for insurance purposes.
So that's an excellent point. So, just to clarify, so obviously, assets, property, infrastructure is can cost a lot of millions to build, and not besides
Billions.
the historic billions. I mean, yeah, definitely. Besides the value, the historic value, or the significance of those monuments. So certainly, it has to be insured. And again, my main niche is insurance. So I said all about risk insurance and problems that can happen. And you need to have some sort of a property casualty concept going on here. So, but we'll get deeper on that one. But let's go back. So you stumbled into the appraisal world in a way. You started, but what got you like? Obviously, you started probably smaller, with just regular businesses. Then you took it
Oh,
on the
I,
road to something different.
Yeah. I started doing very small stuff. I started appraising like churches and schools. So started with relatively smaller stuff. and then sort of grew from there. I graduated with an engineering degree, but who's going to hire a kid with an engineering degree and give him a job in finance? Because I wanted a job in finance. So, well, I found one guy who became my boss, and he groomed me, and he was very kind to me, and sort of it took from there.
Well, it's funny you said that because I know this for a fact. I have a very dear friend of mine who actually studied accounting and wanted to go in finance. Never started in finance because no one wants to hire him because you need experience to get in. And they require 2 years or some sort of internship or mentorship before you can, or apprenticeship before you can get in. And so it was almost like, I'm not gonna do this, and they wound up with me in my insurance industry. I guess that's very close to where we are. I mean, it was difficult, but you did ultimately get in.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and accounting and finance are fairly close, but the one thing people don't understand is accounting is a study of the past, all the things that have happened. Finance is starting from present to the future. Finance is all future, accounting is all the past.
It's reconciling what happened.
Right. And valuation is right in the middle. What's it worth today?
Oh, love that. See, that's a pretty good. So the past, the present, and the future.
So I'm
Nice
the
it all.
present.
I'm sorry.
I'm the present.
You're the present, and we're in the present today. So that's awesome. Now, with that, so you started with, again. You mentioned churches and schools. That, I mean, as you're discussing things, it just like my mind just goes crazy. People may not think those things are also like insurable, or maybe they have a value and things like that, but they do. I mean, some churches are ancient. I mean, they're like over a century, old, and so on and so forth, even more than that. I mean, was it last year with Notre Dame in France? I mean,
Hmm.
imagine that, the cost that thing had, and just to rebuild it and to appraise it and all the stuff. It might have been a nightmare for those folks up there. you know,
I
uh,
can't even imagine that. I mean, those are historic
I
values. I
know.
mean, some of the churches I did, they weren't. I mean, in this country, you don't have too many crazy old churches, right? I mean, the oldest
I
church you
got a
might see is
few.
maybe 200 years old, right?
Yeah, well,
In Europe, I mean, churches can be 1,000 years old. I've
easily.
never done one of those. Um,
Would you, if
uh,
you
I
have the opportunity?
I could, yeah.
So let me ask the question on that. So I know in the appraisal world, right? You always have to do comparables, right? You have to compare similar stuff within a particular either infrastructure style, or maybe neighborhood, or maybe type of similar businesses, and so on and so forth. So how would you quantify that? I mean, obviously we don't want to go deeper on the concept, but just a highlight.
Um, Good question. So, comps is one way of valuing something, right? And generally, people, when they talk comps, they're thinking of houses.
Yes.
And generally, houses are appraised using comps only. But when you're looking at other items, there are really three ways of appraising anything. One is the income approach. You're looking at the cash flow that the business or the asset might give you over the next 5, 10, 50 years. You and then you present value that cash to today. It's a simple present value analysis. The second way of appraising anything is a market approach, where what you said is looking at comps.
Hmm.
What is a similar type of home or a similar type of a car or business selling for? And the third way of doing it is cost approach, as in what might it cost to build that house, to build that business, or to build that bridge today?
Excellent. Well, so I want to give you. This is not a test question, but this is something that I've heard. So the Verrazano Bridge, as an example, was built almost 40 years ago. I think just about over 40 years, maybe more than that actually, in 60 something. I think 68 or something. That's when.
65, yeah.
So yeah. So it has been prepaid way back then. It is still being paid for today through tolls and stuff for maintenance and purposes. There was some discussion, or at least I've read somewhere back in the days, that it was even supposed to have a third level, and I'm not sure if that was true or not. But it seemed that it didn't happen. They were supposed to have a train track supposedly built in. Again, When you did the appraisal, was that something that was in discussion and something that was even revealed?
Great question. I have appraised the Verrazano Bridge, and most people think the Golden Gate Bridge is the largest bridge in America, but it's not. It's the Verrazano Bridge, which is the longest suspension bridge. The suspension bridge meaning, when they say the longest, meaning the distance between the two towers is the longest when it comes to the Verrazano Bridge. And it was built in 1965, and there is a third level. I have been on that third level, so I can vouch that there is one. But it is not used for trains, and you're right, it was going to be. Uh, but all bridges have a underdeck, which is used for really maintenance. So it has a deck which is below the third deck under for the car for maintenance of the crew. Um, and I'll tell you a story about the bridge. So, you know those rivets that keep the bridge together. You know
Uh-huh.
those about 3 inch, about half an inch thick, quarter of inch thick. So they hammer those rivets in all the bridges to sort of keep them in place. It's like nails, but they use rivets.
Yeah.
Um, and as the bridge moves with the traffic, with the movement of the air or the contraction and expansion of the weather, if you will, the these rivets keep falling off. And that's part of maintenance. You know, these rivets keep falling off and they keep replacing them, just like
Let's not
painting.
scare people right now.
No, no, just like it's just like painting, right? Paint chips off, you paint it again. Rivet falls off, you put it back in, and that's just part of the maintenance. It's regular. I mean,
Ongoing.
it literally has millions of rivets. So if a few of them fall down, you know, they keep replacing their rivets. That's not a big deal. So when I was on the underdeck, there were literally thousands of these rivets, and I'm like, what is this? And I picked one up, and you know, the person who was escorting me, you know, he explained me the story. Oh, these rivets, you know, the part of the maintenance, they keep falling down. I'm like, huh? Can I keep one? And he goes, yeah, sure, I got thousands of them. I'm like, okay. So I kept it as a souvenir for myself. Then think about it, it wasn't a big deal. He's got a thousand, he's got literally thousands of them just laying around, you know, up for no good. So I was like, all right, I'll keep one. So I kept one. Now, 4 days later, I'm going through LaGuardia.
Oh boy.
Now, if you don't see, I'm a brown guy going through LaGuardia in the early 2000s. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And so
I can relate to that.
I threw my you know, check-in bag in X-ray scanner. You know, there's a long line. I'm waiting, and all of a sudden, this gal, she pulls me aside. She's like, "Sir, what do you have in your bag?" And I'm like, I don't
Oh
know,
my God.
laptop, book, pen, stuff like that. She's like, "Do you have a bolt in your bag?" I'm like, "No, I don't have a bolt in my bag. Why would I have a bolt in my bag?" And she's like, "Can I take a look?" I'm like, "Sure." She reaches in and pulls out this rivet. I'm like,
Oh boy.
holy
Oh,
shit,
that one.
I totally forgot about it. And I'm like, now I'm just backpedaling, right? Because, you know, now I'm
That
like,
sounds
oh
weird.
my God, oh my God, she's going to throw my ass in jail. I'm like, shit. So I'm like going, oh, no, no, no. So I'm explaining her the story. No, no, tell you what, I was on the bridge. I was doing this. I'm an appraiser. I'm doing, you know, I'm working for the MTA. And she's just staring at me. She's going, uh huh, yeah,
Uh-huh.
uh huh, uh huh, uh huh. I'm
Yeah,
like,
thank
oh
you.
my
What
God,
a
oh
story, right?
my God. You know, and then she goes all of a sudden, all right, go. She kept the rivet, of course. But then,
Really?
yeah,
So,
she's
so, so, oh
she
my
she
goodness.
she probably thought that no sane person is going to come up with this story. So she's like, it's gotta be true. So she let me go.
Well, I mean, either that or you're like very creative and you come up with something like that. That's too elaborate to actually just come up on the jiffy. It doesn't work that way. Oh boy, that's interesting. Wow. So ultimately, you lost that.
Oh, I lost the rivet. I don't have anything. Yeah.
Ah, hopefully the next time you go back, you can
Next
ask.
time I go back, I'll keep it in my check-in bag.
Yeah, well, yeah. We just have to announce, hey, I got this. Put it
I
right
I
there
just
on
I
the
totally
bridge.
forgot about it. I was like, oh, okay.
Oh no, it happens all the time. People forget stuff and they, oh, oops, what is that? You got to leave it behind. Okay,
Yeah.
well, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Wow, so that's interesting. Now, if I may, I don't know if you can share the data or not, but you know, would you be able to share value of some of the structures, but certainly not.
I can tell you when I appraised it, it was in the single digit billions.
Ooh, ooh-la.
And this was about 16, 17 years ago.
I can just
To,
imagine what it is today.
if I were to do it today again, I would say in the 30s.
Now, the appraised value certainly will be against, I guess, any type of destruction, whether it's natural or not,
Correct.
or there's a different level of that will be
No,
just the cost for it to be rebuilt.
it's the cost of replacement. So, if the bridge were to come down, God forbid, this is what might cost to rebuild that bridge. Now, not the exact same bridge, right?
Right.
They probably have advances in technology and engineering since, but a bridge that serves similar functionality for the people of New York. So, same thing going from Queens to Staten Island, if I remember.
No, it will be
Bro,
Quincy
bro,
Manhattan.
it goes to Staten Island, right, Verrazano?
Arizona said nine, yeah.
Yeah,
Said nine to Brooklyn, yeah.
Brooklyn to Staten
Brooklyn.
Island.
Yeah.
So the same bridge, same area, same length, maybe higher load. Maybe this time they'll put the trains on, or what have you.
Wow. Now, is that any different from the Golden Bridge in terms of value? I mean, they have similarities, no?
Similarities. It's just think of it as it's just a very complex
Process.
building.
Well,
Yeah, of course it's a bridge, so it's just got too much going on. So, plus it's going across a major water body. And it takes, what, 8, 10 years to build it. The Golden Gate Bridge or the Bay Bridge are fairly old because they're part of the Roosevelt New Deal projects, the WPA projects back in the 30s after the Great Depression. The Verrazano is relatively new. It was built in the 60s when America had so much money they didn't know what to do with it.
but then you said the Brooklyn Bridge. Now
Yeah,
that's a historic,
that is
it,
a historic bridge.
yeah, and that's not a big one, but it's definitely
Yeah.
a key icon in New York and the U.S. and the world actually. So,
Yeah, Brooklyn Bridge. I mean, that is definitely a historic monument. Yeah.
uh, so we move from the bridge. I mean, I have to say it's awesome. The fact that you actually even were able to do that. I mean, you don't think about these things like in like no one's walking like. Did anyone really value these things and give them?
Well, you can put a value on anything, right? I mean, a park, a bench on the park, this pen, this book, everything has a value.
Oh, of course, but again, for the common folks, I mean, we're not walking and trying to say, like, what would that be? What would the cost for this thing, right? We don't. We take it for granted. It's there. We use it. That's it. Unless you
Most
buy it yourself.
people, when people walk on the Brooklyn Bridge, they're not thinking about what that bridge is worth. No.
Well, maybe the historic value. Maybe that's what they look at. The fact that
Right.
I've been there, I crossed it, I did
Yeah.
this. I remember, I still literally to date, and I've lived in New York almost 30 years. I do when I'm by the bridge, by the Verrazano or the Brooklyn Bridge. I do stand there and take a picture. I can't help it.
Well,
I'm on
it's
the
a
bridge, I take a picture. I'm on a ship, I take a picture. That's awesome, actually. Driving and going on a ship, and really just as it passes under the Verrazano, it's an awesome feeling. The magnitude of it, when you go underneath it, is great. So it's crazy.
it's a piece of
So
art.
it is. Well, technology, art, I mean, engineering. It's massive, right? Now let's go different route now. So I know you've done brands and other things. How do you do that? Now, brands is a whole different thing. I mean, you're taking a brand that is marketed in the space of business, right? I don't know, Nike. I'm not sure which ones you've done, but any brand out there. Uh, how do you even select one, or are you solicited?
No, they come to me. And brands, I have to be more careful. I can't talk much about that, but
Sure.
I'll give you an example. Say, for example, this bottle of Pellegrino. I haven't appraised Pellegrino, but I'm just using it as an example. Um, what is this? This is just spring water filled with carbon dioxide, right? So if I were to take these labels off and instead of a green bottle, I have a regular bottle, what could you sell this for? Right? So say if this bottle costs $1, and without these labels and without the thing saying, "Oh, from Italy," you might be able to sell it for 20 cents. So the difference between $1 and 20 cents, that's 80 cents, times how many ever they sell, right?
Yep.
That's for each year. And then you project that for how many umpteen years out, and you present value it. So that's really the value of the brand. So basically, what you're trying to evaluate is if the Pellegrino brand did not exist, right? If we peeled off the labels or the green bottle, what could you sell this for? And the difference between what the Pellegrino is selling for versus what it could sell for without the label
Is the
is
brand
really the brand's value.
well, and it's amazing because when we talk about brand names and whether it's in the luxury stuff, lifestyle stuff. I mean, for ladies is all the bags and the classic, the Chanel's and Louis Vuittons and things like that. I mean, you are really paying for the brand,
Precisely.
and anything else. I mean, it's funny, in when you go to a store, right? And in the food, let's take the food. Since we're talking, you go to a store, same brand, the same, like let's say in New York we have ShopRites. So I'm not sure if you have them in the West Coast, but if you go in, you can buy a can of soup, right? And that would be a brand, Campbell's. And then you buy a local ShopRite, you know, soup, but the price would be totally different. There's a good chance they're probably in the same manufacturing, establishment where they've been made. But one is a brand because that's the cost that they put to brand it, to actually market it, and obviously that's what the consumer is paying for. So it's a little different. Well, at least that's I think where it stands in terms of analogies. Um, so then let me ask this. We'll go to the healthcare. Hospitals. Have you done any
Yes.
appraisal for? Was that any different in terms of process, or is the same formula just different?
Think of me like a vet. A dog, a horse, a frog, a fish, a
I like
whale,
that.
it's all the same. They
It
all have a
doesn't.
pulse, they all have systems, they all breathe air or they all breathe air through water. I mean, they all have the same systems. So yeah, hospital is it is a building with services, specialized services like a hotel or a fancy hotel, but it is a building with services. And basically the model is you buy the building in wholesale, you equip it with services and doctors and good nurses, and you're servicing people in retail. I mean, that's really the business model, wholesale to retail.
I have never heard that breaking down broken down the way you did it. It sounds so easy. It's not even funny. You made it so elemental.
I like to simplify things, and that's
I
why my
love it.
YouTube channel. See, most people, Hurricane, in my business, they love to complicate things because people in my business love geek talk. I couldn't give a shit about geek talk. I'm not trying to impress anybody. I mean, I can go toe to toe with anybody in geek talk, but that's not going to help people.
We call it KISS, right? Keep it stupid simple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, but you're right. I mean, it makes sense. It's very easy. Anyone right now watching this or listening in can really understand what it is. It's very simple. You just give us the breakdown of all the process in a very nutshell, and it's not even difficult to comprehend, which is awesome. Um, wow. But now, so that's structure, wholesale to retail. But now, I don't know if you were able to do anything with, let's say, intellectual property.
Of course, intellectual property, like brand is intellectual property, right? So patents or
Patents,
trademarks
yeah,
or domain names.
yeah. Domain
Uh,
name.
yeah,
Okay.
that's an intellectual property.
Actually, I have a couple of those, and they do actually raise up in value.
Well, it
It's
depends on what it is, right? So, say for example, if I have a domain name called Kanodia.com, nobody is going to give a shit about that, right? But if you have a domain name called hurricane.com, right? Now
they might
you're
want the
associated with, they might want that because there's some value to it. So domain name is kind of like the way I equate domain name nowadays is almost like Bitcoin, right? So the way I tell the Bitcoin story, people ask me all the time, what's a Bitcoin worth? I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's like, so think of Bitcoin or crypto, how we used to think about domain names in the late 90s,
the
right?
dot coms.
Yeah, the dot coms. We
Yeah.
don't know what it's worth, but it's kind of like, oh, somebody's buying it for $1 million, so it's got to be worth $1 million, right? But it's worth what? You can buy it for $15. On back in the day, you would buy it at Yahoo or
Already.
yeah, Net Solutions or something. Remember the name
Oh
was?
yeah, yeah. We were
But
talking about
nowadays,
earlier.
yeah. I tell people that Bitcoin or crypto, I should say,
Cryptocurrency, yeah.
cryptocurrencies are similar to domain names right now. Now, would you care if your domain name is hurricane.com or hurricane.ai? It really doesn't matter. I mean, as long as hurricane,
Is
what
in
you're
there.
doing with it, right? Similar to cryptocurrency, right? I mean, they're all the same, but it depends on what you're doing with it. Bitcoin is just going up in value because it frankly is the oldest, and just everybody's getting on board. But we'll see how long that feedback loop lasts.
Interesting. It's a good concept. I mean, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of like you're right. Everything has a value, and everything can have a value, and sometimes there is sentimental value that no one. That's probably the hardest one to add. You know, like we talked about historic value. You know, how do you even put that in play? Or sentimental value. Like we always hear this. I lost, you know, in family matters, right? I lost my grandma's ring. You know, it's something that my great grandfather left, you know, in the family. It's a heirloom, whatever. So those are like different ways of looking at value, I guess. How does that even play in your world if you
Oh,
come
it's
across
very
that?
important. If you've ever seen the show Pawn Shop, I mean, that happens all the time. People say, "Oh, my grandfather went to the
Yeah.
war, and it's worth so much." And the guy goes, "Yeah, I'll give you $500 for it." The guy goes, "Whoa,
Yeah. Listen, don't sell it then, right?
yeah." So look at it this way, right? So everything has a vantage point, right? So my phone, you're looking at the back of the phone, right? You only see the back. I see the front. Some guy sees it from the side. Some guy sees it from the top. Everybody sees a different side of the phone, but it's the same damn phone,
It's
right?
what it means to you.
What it means to you. So value is in the eye of the beholder.
That's it. Awesome, awesome. I love it. I mean, I'm just enjoying this because you kind of speak a little bit my language in terms of things because really that's what it is. People value things. I mean, a good example, and that's a joke, but it's not really. Let's hope nobody gets offended. But with the corona and the pandemic, right? Paper, toilet paper. The value just
Yeah.
changed. You know, what is that? I mean, you know, no one took care of that. Nobody cared about that thing before. All of a sudden, it became the hottest commodity. You can't even find it. Uh,
Yeah, precisely. So many times it's supply and demand, right? Many a times it's what
yeah.
kind of earnings it can make you. Many a times, hey, it costs a lot of money to build that. So why doesn't everybody have a Trump Tower like Mr. Trump? Well, because it costs a lot of money to make it.
Well, you know, it's funny. So since you went to towers and Trump Tower, again, even New York City, and I'm sure the same in the West Coast and everywhere, pretty much, real estate in the '90s. Some of the buildings you could buy for $1 million, $2 million, and now it's like in the hundreds, if not even in the billion rate. I remember just in Brooklyn, for example, 4 family and to 8 family, you probably can get them less than $1 million. This was in the '90s. Now you can even, you know, dream of a single residential home for that price in some of those parts. It is amazing, and really, it's the same structure. You know what changed? Demand, market, different things, different needs, different demographics moving in, and it changed the whole world. And then the same thing for everything. Um, Technology, same thing. Some of it, you know, was very expensive. Again, we're talking about some things that were expensive in the past now, and they're cheaper now because of manufacturing. I mean, talking to electronics, TV, things like that. So it's kind of weird how the dynamics go. Now you have to take all that in consideration and pretty much give a policy value
Well,
to.
that's why you have to look at different vantage points. So when I told you income approach, market approach, and cost approach, basically I'm trying to look at the same object from different vantage points. I'm looking at it from this side, I'm looking at it from this side, I'm looking at it from this side, because unless I do it from all angles, I cannot understand that object.
Wow. So we'll stick to the health related stuff, and let's talk about pharma company.
Mhm.
Now that's multinationals, trillions. I don't know. I think trillions is correct. I mean, it's just I can't even count those digits with these guys. I mean, they're big. I mean, talking Pfizer, for example, now with just the shots and things, and beyond that, right? Um, does that get valued as well?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I have appraised a lot of pharma companies and med devices companies and healthcare companies, and they're all very different, right? Med devices companies are different because they're almost producing a product for the healthcare industry.
Hmm.
Pharma companies are different because they're working with different molecules and different uh, um, uh, uh, diseases, if you will, or different, what's the right terminology? Uh, 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 anyway, different diseases,
Yeah.
and they're working on it at the same time. And it takes years to develop a molecule or to develop a drug.
R&D.
And these companies have to keep pumping in money in the development cycle. So at one point, large companies like Merck or Pfizer, they have literally thousands of drugs in process with the FDA. And there's round one, there's round two, round three. It costs a lot of money.
And you'll have to come up with what that's worth in terms of
Yeah.
everything.
So say,
Now,
for example, if a drug is in clinical one trial, and it still has 5 years to go to become approved, FDA approved, and they still have to do trial two, trial three, we can value that drug even if it's clinical one trial because it could give you future potential cash flow. So we estimate the future potential cash flows and we present value them.
so is that an actuarial type of formula type? Is that what it is?
Yeah,
Like
that that
assumptions?
that that, that really is. It's just an income approach. We're discounted cash flow.
Interesting. Wow. See, again, I mean, like, I'm just trying to get my head around this, but like the more you were talking about, the more I'm thinking about all these odd concepts, but they all you still have the same answers or similar answers because at the end it all boils out to the same thing. Wow. Um, hmm, okay. So you mentioned YouTube. So you actually go out and do programs
Mhm.
currently.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, my YouTube channel is designed for business owners. As I said, I'm cutting out the geek talk, and in each of my videos, I am telling them three things. What are the latest trends in that industry? So, say, for example, a CPA practice or a self-storage facility or a sign company or a e-commerce company. I have all kinds of businesses
Mm-hmm.
on my YouTube channel. And so I'm telling three things. What are the latest trends in that business? What are the rule of thumbs of valuing that business? And how can you increase your business's value? So if you're a business owner, if you watch my channel, I am going to clearly tell you that if you were to hire me as an appraiser to come in and value your business, these are the two, three, four things I will be paying attention to. So it's to your benefit to pay attention to those things up front before you even call me so that you can maximize your business's value. So think of me as a magician giving away a magician's code.
I'll tell you, man, I'm enjoying this conversation. The way you throw these things out, you got it down to a science, I have to tell you.
Yeah, I'm good at what I do.
Listen, and you know what? You're doing it in a smooth way, and I love that. And that's really when you become an expert. That's exactly the level that you can deliver. Doesn't have to be complex. You can break it down. But so really, on your YouTube is really going to a normal business now. I mean, you deal with the big and large groups, government, and all that, but then you can also help the little guy. And in this past year, obviously businesses have been really suffering, right? Have you gotten a lot of, I guess, inquiries or demand to and people seeking your services to at least understand where they stand today? Because do I want to keep pumping money in my business, or do I want to just fold and just move on and take my losses? Is that something that you encountered in the last few months?
Yeah, people call me all the time saying, "Hey, my business was worth 10 million last year. What do you think it's worth today?" I'm like, "I don't know. It's probably is worth less." Or, depending on the business you're in, might be worth more, right? So if you have an online business and, so say, for example, um, I have a client which is a alcohol distributor online. Their
Mm-hmm.
business has tripled in value.
Everybody's ordering stuff in. Yeah.
Everybody's ordering stuff. My cannabis clients who were almost going broke in Q1 of last year have now more money than they know what to do with.
Call me in. I know what to do with it.
Yeah. So it really depends, right? I mean, this economy has really been extreme for some people, right? Some people have made shitload of money and some people have really lost their shirt.
Yeah, I mean it is unfortunate, but you're right. I mean it's been good for some, bad for many. It's just unfortunate, you know.
Yeah,
It's,
like
it's kind of,
Spotify, Zoom has done really well.
oh, Zoom, banked up. I mean, right off
Yeah,
the bat. They've been around for years, but they
yeah,
Skype was even much bigger, and then they took over.
yeah. A Marriott or Boeing, not so much.
Well, cruise lines. I mean,
Yeah,
they've been hit so hard. It's not even funny. I mean, I'm a fan of cruising, so I feel their pain because I can't go anywhere. But it's crazy. I
I mean, cruise ships, I mean, they had to stop because cruise ships, you literally have thousands of people. I mean, it's like a petri dish, you
no,
know.
I get it. Well,
So
I was,
I love cruising too. So
but I'm not concerned. I love that. I love cruising. That's actually a nice logo. I can see that on the shirt. I see
yeah,
that on shirts, by the way. But the question is not so much about the company in a way, obviously, right? But then there's employees. I mean, when you go into these ships, and some of the large ones have like 2,000-3,000 crew members. And just imagine the magnitude of all these folks now from all over the world that's their bread and butter. And right now they just basically are, they've lost that. I mean, here we're looking at the rate of unemployment that's been, increasing over the last few months. I'm hoping that now it's going to get better. But I mean, certainly it's been a challenging year. Um, Now, one key question, which it might be related, maybe something you can give us some insights on. Stock market. Is there such thing as an appraisal to stock?
see, again, there is a value that there's a number that something should be worth, but stock market is really more emotions driven. So
Reverse.
precisely. So like Tesla was trading at what, 1800 price to earnings ratio. Now, most people don't understand what does price to earnings ratio means. Price to earnings ratio of Tesla, if it's 1800, that means for every $1 Tesla adds to its bottom line, people are willing to pay $1,800 for that $1.
You're buying a dollar for 1,800. That's
Correct. Is that worth it? I don't know. I'm not smart enough to tell you that.
well, I guess to your point, that's emotional, and it's up to the value that the person puts in it, the vantage point.
Precisely. Value of the eye and the beholder.
You see, I'm listening. I love it. I love it. I mean, listen. I mean, that's a very good. I guess a good descriptive in terms of the stock. I mean, yeah, stock has always been an interesting uh, platform because you're not buying tangible. You're buying stuff that services, things. I mean, they're tangible to a degree. The companies are, but what
Well,
you're buying is
it's more tangible than Bitcoin.
well, certainly yes. Well, I'm saying tangible meaning that it's you're not buying the product. You're buying the value of the product technically.
Well, if Tesla were to go broke, or say any company, say, why pick on Tesla, right? Let's pick up, say, Marriott.
Well, no, you're not beginning. Just give an
Yeah,
example. So
yeah. Say Marriott were to go broke, right? And there are, I don't know, 10 million shares of Marriott. Well, if Marriott were to go broke and if they were to sell it, well, all the shareholders are going to get so much in value. If Tesla were to go broke and you paid 1,800 for that $1, you're going to get less out of it. Right. So that's why you got to pay attention to the PE ratios and the value. So the real benchmark for value in stock market is PE ratio. Most people don't pay attention to that.
interesting. Good. Now we have that. Now we have it. We can share it, and someone can actually use that to their benefit. Um, so let's go back to your YouTube and your opportunity there. Are you open to anyone that listens to here and they want to get your services right now? Basically, they can just go on. What is the actual channel? Let's share that.
The channel is called What's It Worth? It's on YouTube. If you just put What's It Worth on YouTube, it'll pop up, or just put in my name, it'll pop up. And in that channel, I'm educating regular business owners. So, say if you own a car dealership, or if you own a auto mechanic shop, or if you own a medical practice, or own a CPA practice, you can go to my channel and just learn about your business. And it's 5 minutes. My videos are not long. I'm telling you whatever you need to know within 5 to 7 minutes. And it takes a lot of work to boil it down to 5 to 7 minutes. As Mark Twain once said, I did not have time to write a short letter, so I wrote a long one instead. It takes longer to write something concise.
I love it. That's a good one. I love it. Well, that leads me to a different question. First of all, the description of the channel, YouTube channel, is on the description of the show. And also the picture on the show is actually what's it worth. So, with you and a brand van behind you. But the question that I have, which probably people would ask, is, well, I'm a business person. I got this business, and I'm already barely making it with my stuff. Now, how much will it cost me to get services like yours, for example? And can I even afford them?
Yeah, good question. Or you don't have to hire me. In fact, frankly, I cannot do all the work that I'm getting right now. So, say for example, if you come to me, I can always refer you to one of the people in my network. I mean, I know 80% of the people in the valuation business. So if you come to me and I cannot help you, I can refer you to somebody. And it frankly doesn't cost you very much to get your business appraised. Depending on the business, maybe $2,000 to $10,000. You know.
So again, but those are like if individual owners seek the business. But now, does insurance also seek your help too? And I'm assuming they're the first ones that want to have, just like a bank, right? They want to make sure that the house is appraised. So in this case, anyone that wants to insure a business, they need to put a value to it, and then that's
Precisely.
so it's really whether you're an individual, just small business or large business, or predominantly a bank that is going to be a lender, would probably be the most interested in your type of valuation. Or,
Yeah. So for example, if a bank is giving an SBA loan or a business loan, they need a valuation. They need to know what the business is worth.
right. So it's all about the income, the ROI, what you make, all that good stuff, and then they'll know how much they can give you.
Hmm.
Pretty simple. I mean, it makes sense. They gotta give the money. They want to make sure they have an asset, they have something to fall back in.
They got some kind of a collateral. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, in a house, it's very easy. They can take the house. In a business, it's a little harder because it's projections.
Precisely. So in business, what they're really valuing is what kind of recurring cash flow do you get. So recurring cash flow is very important. If you get cash flow like this, that's not good. If you get cash flow like this, banks and investment companies like that. Because then that's something that's bankable because they know you will make their payment on a monthly basis.
Listen, I think we've got a lot of good stuff from this show, and in a very fun way. I think that we've covered a lot of angles. I think we went a little bit all over the place, but we stuck to the valuation concept here, and you've really were able to answer all these questions. And again, I try to come up with these questions that me personally would probably want to have an answer for, but I think they are common questions that everyone would probably want to know if they were in front of you. Anything you want to tell the audience, just to as an advice.
Um, if you want your business's value to increase, focus on recurring revenue and try to automate as much as you can. The more you move away from your business as the owner. So most owners think that the more hours they put in the business, the better it is for the business. No, it's the opposite of that. The less hours they can put in the business so that the business functions in an automated way, the better it is so that they can transfer that business to a new buyer.
Interesting. Because if not, they'll be attached to the business. They cannot. Basically, it's them. They become the business.
Precisely, because it's not a business then, it's a job.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a very good advice, and I'll take it for what it's worth, and it's worth a lot. I mean, it's amazing that one piece of advice can change the life of a person or a business today, since we're talking business here. And if someone takes that, and there's a lot of good stuff going on today in terms of technology and services that can literally automate your thing. It doesn't matter what kind of business you have, you can. So, wow. So, we're coming to the end of the show. And I want to really thank you for the opportunity to come on and share your value. Just no pun intended. It just I don't know. It came up that way, but I hope that rhymed well. But really, thank you. It was a very smooth, fun interaction. I think there's a lot of good, positive content, core concepts, in terms of business, some just general knowledge. So, I hope if you're listening and watching in, you've picked up a few things. And again, as I always said, if you pick one thing or two things from any of these discussions that you can apply and really get results from, you're a winner, and we all win, because that's the purpose of our exchange of information here. So, Bharat, thank you very much. I've enjoyed this time, and we will share also. You don't have any publication, do you?
My YouTube channel is the publication.
Okay, no, I'm just saying, because if we can share that as well. So again, please go check out the YouTube. Link is actually in the description of this show. Click on it and have fun. You'll enjoy each one of them. I've actually watched a couple, so they're cool. I didn't watch all of them. Now I'm gonna be intrigued to watch all of them.
Thanks, Hurricane. Appreciate you having me.
No problem. So for us, thank you for watching the iHealth channel, listening on iHealth Radio, and we'll be talking tomorrow morning. Have a good night.